listeners, and welcome to episode 101 for the National Land Realty Podcast, where we talk about all things land. Our goal here is to inform, educate, and entertain those of you who own land or are interested in the buying and selling of land throughout the United States. My name is Mac Christian, and I am the Chief Marketing Officer here at National Land Realty. I will be your host here again for the 101st time. Today is a really cool episode. We're talking to Crockett Carruthers. Crockett is the host of the Wealthy Cowboy podcast. And if you look online, if you look anywhere, Crockett is all over the place. He's been doing guest podcasts with other podcasts as well as his own podcast, focusing on wealth generation for, and as he says it, for cowboys or just blue collar workers or people looking to make their way or looking to find unique ways to build wealth within the realm of agriculture, ranching, or just blue collar labor. Those of you who are looking to educate yourselves on devices like insurance or investments or alternative investments, or even diversification of career fields. This is a very, very cool podcast. This is one that has something for everybody. So stay tuned, enjoy, and I'll talk to you later. Okay, so I am sitting here with Crockett Carruthers, and not to be confused with Shade Carruthers, I think is the name that's showing up on your thing. That's not. Yeah. We're here with Crockett, and you're the owner of Diversified Payments. You're the host of The Wealthy Cowboy, and if you just look up this man's name, you are going to find this person all over social media, YouTube, doing presentations on investment and wealth management. As it relates to, I mean, it says it on its own, right? The Wealthy Cowboy. You focus on blue collar work and how to make a living and how to do things right. And so I want to give you a chance. How did you end up where you are now, doing what you do now, and you know what brought you to here?
Yeah, so I grew up just basically ranching and rodeoing. I went to college for animal production. Just been interested in that my whole life. And I realized when it came time to settle down and get married and we're having a kid and all that stuff, I was just working my ass off and long hours and not getting paid a whole lot, you know. And so I started searching for something else. I started listening to these podcasts, which led me down a whole road. It started out with just cowboy podcast, and I started listening to some business ones. Bradley and Dropping Bombs was the first one. I was like, man, this guy kind of looks cool. I'll see what he's got. And basically, he just has different business owners on all walks of life, all entrepreneurs in some kind of industry. So I was like, oh, this is cool to listen to the stories, but I never thought I'd be doing anything. But when I decided that, I was like, man, I want to increase my income somehow. He actually started some companies. The first one he started was Real Financial, which was life insurance. Like I said, I followed him, listened to all his content, read his book, all that stuff. So I was like, I'll join in with that. So I joined that, learned the life insurance deal, sold life insurance for a little while through Real Financial. I still have my license, but I don't actively sell. It is a very important product. That's another thing. Like I've always sold stuff. It's always been just stuff I was using. I've sold cattle. We're always selling some horses. We sell pickups and trailers. Usually any kind of feed or hay we get in that we're feeding, I'll try to sell it just to cheapen my stuff up. Right. So I was always in sales, but I never really realized it. But I've always believed in everything that I sold. The life insurance, I got to reading up on that. I was like, man, that's something very important that somebody needs. So the first policy I wrote was on myself because I think you need to believe in whatever you're selling and back that product up. So I went through that for about a year and a half. It's probably been 2 years now. That model it can be a great model, but I was not putting in the work that it took. He also started another company called Real Merchant Services, where I learned the merchant services business, which is mainly credit card processing. So anytime you swipe a credit card at a store, at a gas pump, run it over the phone, anytime you run a credit card or debit card, somebody's on the back end of that, getting the money from one place to the other. And somebody's making a little bit of money off of that. So it's a really great industry. It's got recurring revenue. So once you get that built up, it keeps coming in monthly. So I really like that model. Went through the training with them with Real, but it was all virtual. It was all based in Las Vegas. So there was kind of a disconnect for me. I didn't do much with it for a while. And a buddy of mine had another guy that he had been working for. He actually owns Diversified Payments, I work for them. But it's right down the road. It's in Hyco, Texas, about an hour from me. Little office there. And he said, come up. Yeah, we'll talk about it. It's been really great. That guy, John Keeley, is the owner, one of the owners of Diversified Payments, and he is super knowledgeable. I had a podcast with him on the Wealthy Cowboy Show, and it's crazy. I always loved sitting down with him and picking his brain. He's always got great stories, very knowledgeable, been in different industries and been very successful. Just lost it all, built it all back up, and it's crazy. But yeah, I've been with them for about a year, and it's been pretty awesome. Like I said, it's recurring revenue, so I'm building that all the time, and it's great that we can help businesses save money. I mean, we helped the local feed store. They were one of my first customers. They saved about $20,000 a year in credit card processing fees. So it's cool to be able to help businesses like that. I started out with my friends' businesses, everybody I know. I was reaching out to them, helping them, if I could, which most of the time we can. It's an unregulated industry, so these companies can kind of do whatever they want. They're tacking on fees, maybe get you in with a promotion or something, and then ramp it up, kind of like a phone company or a cable company might do. They think they're not looking at it anymore. We're just going to start adding some extra fees in there and raising that rate up. So it's been real cool. Built a little bit of business out of that, and then so in this journey, I'm always listening to podcasts, reading books, listening to books on Audible, and just consuming as much stuff as I can, learning as much as I can, mainly about business. But I also still cowboy a little bit with my own operation and then for other people day working. So I'm still ate up with that bug and do it as much as I can. So I still love listening to old cowboy stories and podcasts like the Flatbed podcast and the Gauge and Cow Horse Full Contact, just the cowboy stuff. So I was really hoping that somebody would come out with a podcast or something like that would kind of combine business and cowboys and the cowboy culture. Nothing ever happened, and really the other ones that I listened to, they don't put out a whole lot anymore, or some of them at all. So I've kind of just got to where, like, when I get something in my mind, I'm going to do it. I'll go, I try to pay somebody or get somebody to help me, but regardless, if I can't get it done, I'm going to just go. I'm just going to dive into it. So I found a place to do a podcast, and I was like, I'm just going to start it and see where it goes. I think we're 20 something episodes in now. It's been pretty great. It's growing all the time. I'm getting to meet a lot of new people from it. Get a lot of people messaging me and stuff and saying how much they like it, how much it helps them. And really, that's what I try to do was merge business and merge Western culture. So I have ranch guys on. I had rodeo guys. I have real estate people, different business people. Everybody's connected to the Western culture somehow, whether it's ranching or rodeoing or they own horses or whatever it is. And then they're also connected to business and had some success somewhere in that, or social media, something. And I try to bring people on, and I try to, no matter who it is, I want everybody to listen to every episode, because I try to get something out of every episode somebody can learn something from, where it's some kind of habit that somebody does, or some kind of new industry that somebody doesn't know about, or a new way of doing things. I try to really open everybody's eyes up, and really myself also. I'm there to learn from those people. So it's really been awesome. I'm sure you get to do that too in this.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. So tell me, how can people listening right now find your podcast?
So we're on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Perfect.
And you can find if you look me up on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, I'm always posting clips from it, trying to promote it. And I post the links to everywhere whenever it comes out. So, but it's just the Wealthy Cowboy Show. You can look it up on any platform.
Excellent. And I have, it's a good show. So I want to detour a little bit off topic. You got onto this show because I mentioned I was going to do this. I have to do it.
Yeah.
So how did you arrive on this show? Who approached you?
So we were at a ranch rodeo in Fort Worth, and it's crazy now since the show come out, and I put so much content out. I get people coming up to me all the time, saying they like it, introducing themselves, and all that stuff. And I had a guy come up to me, and he introduced himself first, and we talked. And then after the rodeo, he said, "Hey, my wife does marketing for a podcast and a company that has a podcast. And would you be willing to come on?" I said, "Sure." He said it was more real estate based. I said, "I'm not, I don't know what I can provide, but I'll definitely come on." And so here we are.
This is the husband of our director of marketing, Kelly Balderrama. It's Matthew, and it fits so well with what I know of. I've met him in person once, and he was at our national conference, and I love telling this story because it's just awesome. So he came with his wife to our national conference, and he comes walking up, and he just kind of just looks me in the eyes, and he steps up real close. And he's like, "My name is Matthew, and I'm Kelly's husband." It's like, "Oh, it's nice to meet you." And I'm kind of expecting, because I'm Kelly's boss, that it's going to be sort of a, "Hello, sir, it's great to meet you," and like the usual kind of thing. And he just looks at me for a long time, and he puts out his hand. And he's like, "I just want to know what kind of man you are." and it took me so off guard because it was so upfront, but it was like I gained so much respect on the spot. It was like, that was awesome. Like, yes, okay,
Yeah.
I'm 100. Whatever you want to know, let's talk.
Yeah.
So now he's gotten us a podcast guest. He doesn't even know that he's working for us now. I love it.
Yeah, he's just out there promoting, and yeah, you must have made a good impression.
I don't know. Maybe so. No, he's an awesome guy. But I love the fact that I get to talk about it. He's going to hear this eventually. So that just makes my day. Okay. So I want to sort of just ask you overhead. You do a lot of education and you're saying Western culture. It's going to be cowboy culture. It's going to be agriculture. It's blue collar culture. What is it that you try to teach, and what do you want people to get out of it?
So, you're best able to serve who you used to be. So, who I used to be was I was a day working cowboy that just worked, didn't know anything besides making money from my labor. And when I started listening to this other stuff, consuming this education, I've gone through courses and read books, and like I said, I'm always trying to learn something every day. And what I've realized is the people that make the most money aren't trading their time for money, and they're definitely not trading their labor for money. And there's ways that anybody can do it. So I just want to bring that to light and show people that, hey, you know, taking a ranch job for $2,000 a month and working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day or 14 hours a day, you don't have to do that. Sure, it can, if that's all you want to do, if that's all you want to do is live on a ranch, you do that. I love the ranch life. I want to bring my kids up that way and live the ranch life. But I also like to have nicer things in life and want to own my own stuff. When you get tied down in those jobs like that, they really handcuff you. They usually give you pickup trailer, house, beef, all that stuff. Well, when a guy gets fired or leaves or whatever, they usually don't have anything. They're having to go to another place, that provides a house because they don't have anywhere to go. Like I said, I'm not putting anybody down that wants to do that, but it wasn't for me. Um, and I just thought that maybe there might be some other people out there like that. Whether you're younger than me or my age or even older people that just never have heard of it. I want to bring that mainstream, the mainstream business stuff, ideas about money and all that, and financial planning and how people run businesses into our cowboy culture. I say Western culture to leave it very broad, but cowboy culture is what I'm most connected to. Uh, like I said, that's what I did for a living. I cowboyed for a living and still do a lot. So I just want to bring those mainstream messages into and package it to where a guy on a ranch or a guy going to a rodeo will listen to that and maybe take something from it because we're just not exposed to it in our industry in our culture. We're always way behind on trends, on marketing, on sales, on how to run a business, any of that. We're in our own little subculture, which is cool in some ways, and it also keeps us behind the time in some ways. So uh, I try to take a lot of that mainstream stuff and just repackage it and put it out into our culture.
You bring up a really good point with you brought up ranch life and people that jump into it, and that's usually, it starts out as a young man's game, right? Like coming out and either being involved with family ranch or just working around a ranching family, or just maybe have a passion for it, start working for a ranch, and then there's that next step career wise that's there, but a lot of people don't know what it is or where it is. And you know, the thing that I immediately thought of is, because I know several that you work for a long time doing the ranch thing, and you're right, they get stuff provided for them. And it's usually, like, from what I've seen, it's injury, like body wear down, like you're not able to do it anymore. And then what do you have? Like, what's your resume? It's not like the family is just going to pay your medical bills for the rest of your life, or the ranch that you work for is going to pay your medical bills. And then it's what's next, because then it's like, uh-oh. And to where you're sort of providing that next step information. So what's the number one roadblock that you find? And again, like, I take the same stance. It's not a negative. I don't want to talk negative about that work. Like, if it's in you, you got to do it. But there's also, like, your career progression, just like anybody. I started out, low level marketing paperwork stuff, and doing the thing and running the hustle, and then had to bounce somewhere else eventually. So everybody has a career progression that they go through. What do you see as the biggest roadblock that people think about, that says, like, oh, I just do this and I don't know what to do next?
Right. I think that a lot of it is just lack of education. Um, and especially, like, you can't blame somebody for that. Like, if you are working 7 days a week and long hours, you don't have time to think about other
Right.
things and go and read books and take courses and listen to podcasts all the time. One thing that I was fortunate of, I was driving a lot, so I'd always listen to podcasts driving. But I think a big part of it is lack of education, and then if it's not that, once you start getting it, I see a lot also is people will get the education and then just sit on it and never take action. Um, and I just learned at some point in the last few years that, like I said, when I get something in my head, we're going to do it. Whether it's wrong or right or indifferent, we're going to have a result out of it. And if it's a failure, then at least we know, and we can either build off of that and keep going and do it better, or just say, hey, that was a bad idea and go a different direction. Uh, like when I started, I would, like I said, I was working a lot. And then when we had Lottie, my daughter, I quit all my jobs that I had, my main jobs that I had working at the sale barns. So my income basically went to zero. And I was like, I'm going to figure this sales deal out. I'm going to figure out a different way to make money. And so that's, most people definitely not do that. And I don't encourage anybody to do that, but that's what I did. I knew that if I just kept stringing along, I'd just keep putting it off. So I gave myself that deadline that I was just going to take the jump. And I think a lot of people are just scared to take the jump. That's another thing about myself, is like, I just know that I've got to go do it. I know there's potential. If I know there's potential somewhere, I'm going to take that leap, whether it's walking up and talking to somebody new, or, going in. Like, sales is hard. Like, you're going to get a lot of rejection. So that's something to learn. But you just got to get out there and do it. Just take action. So I'd say a lot of people just lack the education. They just never get taught a different way. The deal is, just go to school, go to college, get a job, retire. But that doesn't work anymore unless you can go get a high paying job and set something aside for retirement. But most people's 401k is $1 million anymore. I mean, you retire at 65, you can't live off that the interest on that $1 million for the rest of your life. And I just think a lot of things have changed. And I don't know if I'm in an echo chamber all the time, I'll listen to that stuff all the time, or if it's getting more mainstream, everybody's kind of seeing it. College isn't what it used to be. A lot of people that I know of coming out of college are looking at trades or doing something different. So I'm hoping that the education part's kind of catching up, and which I'm trying to provide that, also be a part of that movement. And then the other thing is, man, you just got to go do it. You got to take action.
You just spoke to something. We just did our 100th episode for our podcast, and we had numerous guests on there. And these are all people that started their careers running a hunt guiding business, or in this case, creating a hunting island, and it was a destination hunt, or somebody who created a software app. Quest Hunt is what it's called. The gentleman that created that is Brian Austin. And it's a gamified hunting system where you hunt as partners, and it's minimal cost for huge rewards, and it turns the hunt into a game system against all the other hunters in your state. And then a real estate managing broker in Nebraska that created, he's one of the highest grossing real estate agents in land now. And so we had all those individuals, and another guest was somebody who worked with turkey conservation. And every single one of them echoed the same point that you just gave, which is they decided to go for it, and they gave themselves no other options. And it's really unique. It's something that I don't know if I've ever heard so consistently. And it has to do with, it's that whole outdoors, field, land, ranching, agriculture. It's like, I've decided to do this, and there's no other option. So you just find a way to do it. So now that you're kind of doing your thing, what are the, I guess, the low hanging fruit? Like, what do people need to consider if they are working in a position? Like, let's take, I think the easiest thing to talk about is somebody who is, ranch hand, working, helping out with ag, where they're sort of contemplating, what do I do next, and how can I build wealth? What are some of I know that you probably have bullet points that you teach across the board. So what are some of the things that you discussed that are because I'm kind of bouncing around this a little bit because I know that everybody's situation is different, but I know that there's some commonality in there. So what is it that you kind of engage with people to teach them on that level? Like, what do you need to get together?
Yeah, it's everybody's different. But I would say one thing that holds people back is them thinking that they can't do something. I never would have thought I would have got into sales or been on a podcast or got into marketing, found a passion for that. I was just a ranch cowboy or a rodeo cowboy and then a ranch cowboy, and now I've progressed. But like the limiting beliefs holding people back that they can't do something. Um, I think a lot of guys, I struggled with it for a long time, giving up that identity of what will people think of me if I'm not just a ranch cowboy and I do start doing other things. Uh, you know, I thought people might think of me as a sellout or something, but at some point it's like, who cares what they think? I've got to do it for me. Um, so yeah, that limiting belief. Uh, if you see somebody else do it, you can do it also. It may be take you a little bit longer or whatever, but I just tell people keep their eyes out. If they're wanting to increase their income, keep their eyes out. Start listening to podcasts. Start talking to people that have been successful. Of course, like a ranch guy, our whole deal was to have our own ranch at some point, and it's harder and harder with land cost and leases are hard to find. And also the margins are small. It's pretty good right now, but it costs a lot of money to get in. I'm not saying you can't do it, but nowadays I think you got to think outside the box and get creative to do it ranching. Um, I've tried just about every little niche that I can find, making some money in the agriculture and ranching, uh, from sheep and goats, heifers, calves, cows, kind of doing whatever. So if you can get some land or a little operation, don't just say I'm going to do it this way. Get creative, see what works best for you and your setup, and will make you the most money. Um, and then yes, sales is huge. Like Brad Lee says that all the time. Like if you're going to get rich, if you're going to make a lot of money, you're going to have to sell something. And I tell people that don't want to leave ag. I mean, you don't have to go sell life insurance or credit card processing or anything like that. You can get into real estate. You can sell land, sell ranches, sell horse properties. Uh, you can become a mortgage broker, and help people get those houses and those ranches and those horse properties. You can set there's medicine reps, cattle medicine reps. There's feed reps, any of that stuff. Um, but I would look at something like that, see what kind of sparks your interest, and then go find somebody that's done it and pick their brain. And maybe it's something you want to pursue. Maybe it's a network marketing MLM deal, something like that. Those are really great for entry level. They come with a lot of training on sales and will kind of get you out of your shell. And then maybe you want to go on to something else. But a lot of people made money on that deal. I want to look, when I look at an industry, when I looked at credit card processing, I looked at, I want to look at somebody that's been doing it a while and pick their brain on how much can I make? What's the long term look like? Probably anything you do, you're going to suck at first just because you're not going to know it. Changing industries, even if you've been in sales before, you're selling something new. For me, I was not good at sales, not good at talking, introverted, shy. So that was a whole skill I had to learn, and I'm always trying to improve on. But just realize that you're probably going to suck no matter what you do. Um, but I tell everybody to just keep their eyes open and just look for opportunities. I know it's real controversial, but I listened to a lot of Andrew Tate's stuff, and one thing he said was like, if you go in and buy a cup of coffee at Starbucks or go into a restaurant or a coffee shop, whatever, buy a cup of coffee or buy some food. Think of how that place is making money, how they got your money from you, how they drew you in, how much they're making, how you could get something like that and improve it. And you just start, if you start thinking about that stuff all the time, opportunity will arise, um, whatever that is, if you're always thinking about it. And another thing that I struggled with at first was the shiny object syndrome. It was, everybody's, once you get into it, they start marketing to you. You'll start getting fed those ads on Facebook and stuff. Come over here, you can make all this money, or do this deal, buy this thing, you make all this money. You really need to try to find something to focus on. I try to do like at least a year and then see where you're at in a year, and then, reevaluate. If you're not having success, maybe either change something up or go a different route.
I like that you use shiny object syndrome in that, like I use that phrase probably daily. And it's, managing for a company with 400 and some agents nationwide, just in my role alone, I get probably 5 emails a day from different solicitors trying to sell shiny things. But what's funny is, the agents in the field that we have, they're buried in working with land. Like, they work with land and they work with clients. And so when they get communications like that, they bring stuff to me a lot. It is like, hey, this thing came to me, check this out. And it's like, it's the next shiny thing. And I'm not bagging on them bringing it to me. They're enthusiastic about what they do, and they don't see it. And they honestly, they don't get beat to death like I do with other advertisements. Yeah. And so when they get something, they're bringing it to me. It's like, we'll make your social media post for you. We'll do this for you. And it's like, okay, but what's the catch? And there's always a catch to it, and it's always shiny, and it's just some variant to the thing. And it's easy to do that. And if you get, and I've seen it before with other companies, is that you get caught up in shiny object syndrome, and then you don't make money because you're spending it on a lot of other things that didn't actually make things easier. And I guess the biggest thing to consider in that case, especially starting out, is the biggest watchdog you have to have is cash flow, right? Like, how much is going in, how much is coming out. And that's like for any kind of career change, you got to watch that cash flow like a hawk. Like, don't buy anything, don't do any, like, just watch it.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing about like getting into a service industry. It seems like a lot of guys, that live on a ranch, can do about anything. They can plumb and weld and build fence and all that. So the obvious progression is to go start your own fencing company or metal building company or whatever. And people can make a lot of money doing that, but dang, you got to buy all that equipment and put a lot of money up to get started. If you can get into some kind of sales in a service industry or MLM or something like that, I mean, most of those you can get in for little to nothing if you get with the right companies. Like, I don't know how it is with real estate, but like insurance, like they paid for me to take my course and help me get my license. Like, they'll help bring you in. So it's very little out of pocket. And then once you're in something, then it's kind of up to you to do, if you're going to go buy leads, if you're going to create your own leads, if you're just going to get out there and door knock. I mean, it's all just sweat equity. It's you getting on the phone, you getting, reaching out, whatever it is. But then, like you said, you always get the people saying, hey, we can get you appointments in your calendar for $1,000 a month, or, whatever it is, or these more high quality leads. And I realized the hard way that really, like, anybody that's built anything just did it through hard work. They just embrace the suck, and nobody likes cold calling people. Nobody likes getting cold calls or telemarketers. But that's how most businesses were built. Most successful sales agents in any industry that I've found, that's what they did. They did cold reach out. They were going and knocking on doors, talking to people, even though you might suck at it at first and it's uncomfortable and nobody likes doing it. But that CRM that's automated and all this stuff, it's nice, but most people started out doing all the hard stuff, and then you can start streamlining it to buy back your time.
Yeah, and I myself I've been Series 7 licensed and Series 66 licensed doing finance, and I spent a couple years doing that, and you're exactly right. You have to embrace the awfulness of hopping on the phone and getting yelled at daily, all day. And it's,
Yeah.
I've been there myself. And to your point though, you decide to go through it, and it's they are soft hands industries, right? Like if you're going to do something like that, because when somebody is working in a ranch or any kind of labor intensive thing, the easiest progression is like going into fencing, going into welding, and then to your point also, like, well, do you have a welder? Do you have the goods? Do you have the environment for it? Because a lot of people do that, and they'll run it as a side hustle if they can get the equipment, but the overhead is pretty astronomical a lot of the times. And so service industries are an easy jump point, and all you're lacking is the education at that point. If you're willing to hit the books for between 6 and 8 months, sometimes 4 months, like you come out with a license and you're ready to go. And then it's just all on you. And there's a lot of places out there to build leads. Like you said, lead lists are out there. You can purchase those. You can purchase appointment setters, or I got to bring this one up because it's the most dirtbag thing I've seen in a long time. And I swore that I would take every chance I could to talk about it. There's a local person here. I won't name the name off the bat, but they put out a thing on Facebook saying, "Hey, who has a great accountant?" And so I have an account that I love. And so I sent the name to him, like expecting like this is a person asking for an accountant to use. I got a call from my accountant like, "Hey, this guy just solicited me for his services on networking." And I was like, "Oh, that was so dirty." Like I hate, and there's an element like, so like if you're building the business too, you got to be ethical and you got to do what you say you're going to do. Like your character comes out when you do that. That person I'm going to disparage if anybody brings his name up for the rest of my life. And it's one of those like, don't do that. Like, so it's everything from putting forth the effort and then maintaining good character along the way too, because it matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been listening a lot lately to Myron Golden. He's a sales guy. I think, and his deal is he went from trash man to cash man. He went from barely making it, got into life insurance, didn't make a sale for like 2 years, but he just stayed with it, just kept doing it. And then finally, it started clicking and started rolling. But he was saying on a video I was watching earlier that that building your brand this year, how you can build a brand is have integrity. Just do what you say you're going to do. And that's the best way to build a brand. You start going out and doing that. You start doing the things that you say you're going to do, and people will start noticing, and the word of mouth will travel, and it'll go out through social channels, and you can get referrals and all this stuff. But he said that's the best way to build a brand. Just do what you say you're going to do. And the people that don't, that come in, with the shiny object or whatever, and then they check out, after you hand them some money, then those people, like you said, they're going to have a bad name. They're going to be out of that industry or out of that town or whatever it is. But the people that build their brand on integrity and do what they say they're going to do, then they're the ones that are successful. They're the ones that are going to be around forever and can actually build something, no matter what industry it is.
Yeah, it's one of those where like you can get a quick start by doing something shady, but it will catch up. Like people will find out, or there's backroom chatter or something like that. Like it gives you some jumps in politics and stuff like that, and it might be an immediate gratification thing, but it usually comes back around. So I wanted to ask you, as far as in your own experience, and you came at it from a life insurance perspective, and that's where I take it as like sort of a planning phase, is that as somebody starts, they jump out of whatever they're into, and they go into that wealth generation phase of their life. It's usually that secondary to third kind of career move that people make. What are some of the sort of infrastructure things that they should do first? You brought up life insurance, and I think that that's a really good one to bring up. But as far as things
Hmm.
that stabilize their life, and I don't want to do this, I don't want to put you in a hot spot because you have an insurance license, and I know you can't give specific advice. You got to keep it general. But are there things that people should look at to consider?
Yeah. So I kind of just sold everything. But I really through podcasts and books and everything, I learned this infinite banking concept. Um, and I really like it. I always, when I started learning about life insurance, I was like, man, this whole life deal really sounds like, the way to go. And I started researching it. You look at history, the wealthiest families in America, and even before that, or use life insurance to pass their wealth on. Uh, so a whole life policy and a term life policy, there's a big debate. Dave Ramsey says buy term, invest the rest, and then you have the whole life crowd that says this is the way to build wealth. And like I said, everybody's different, but I always lean this way, and I never really understood the whole concept. But you can set up a whole life policy if you get the right one that grows, and you're a partner with the insurance company. A term policy is the most profitable for an insurance company because they pay out less than 2% of the time. It looks cheaper if you show it to, if you show it side by side. Term policy, $1 million for $80 a month. A whole life policy, you're going to get 100,000 for 150 a month or something like that. We're like, oh no, I'd way rather have this higher coverage. But you're never going to get that. Nobody's ever going to see that. You're just going to waste, most of the time. I'm not completely against it. There's cases where you need to add some term. Uh, if you've got a lot of money out and a lot of debt to cover, maybe you need some term for a certain amount of time. But you're guaranteed to die at some point. So you want that whole life coverage. And the older you get, the more expensive it's going to be. And in that, you can also, there's several different ways. If you get the right policy, uh, you can collect dividends on it. So you're partnered with the insurance company, you're part owner. So as they do good, you're gonna grow your policy with those dividends, and it's gonna grow tax free. And then when you die, it's going to get passed along tax free. So you avoid a lot of taxes there if you store your money in that. And it's also protected against judgment. So if you do create a lot of wealth, somebody's probably going to try to come take it from you. If some kind of bad deal or your kid hits somebody on the road or whatever it is, you're probably going to get sued if you've got some money, and they can't come after that. So that's the big thing. Storing that in life insurance. A lot of wealthy people do it. I know Dave Ramsey went a different route, and he's got his own deal. Another deal that most people will agree on is real estate. Going and buying cash flowing real estate is a big thing. I don't have it. I mean, we just have our own place, our own home, but it's crazy. I can see, we bought it before prices skyrocketed and got a good interest rate on it and stuff. So our equity in it has just it's crazy. It's crazy how much it's gone up. So I can see that, it's a hard asset. Uh, I don't know a whole lot about the stock market, but I know like uh, if you buy a horse or some cows or some land, some real estate, you can go out there and touch that. You have some control over it. Um, but a lot of people, that I follow, Robert Kiyosaki, Grant Cardone, Dave Ramsey, they all have real estate. Uh, so I think that's a great way to store wealth also. And just getting started though is getting something. Uh, I think that where you're making money not off your back, because you can only do that so much. So whether it's learning to sell something or to educate somebody, but it's usually using your mouth and finding a way to make money like that and make money while you sleep. Uh, I think it's Clinton Anderson. He even talks about it that somebody told him when he was young that you'll never build wealth from you. You have to multiply yourself. And that's what he did with his content. and his videos and putting out education. He can make money and sell DVDs and sell courses and all this stuff that he does while he sleeps. You can do that in agriculture also with livestock or with a crop. Unfortunately, the margins just aren't near as high. But you can do it if you can get a hold of the land. I mean, that's how you multiply yourself. You plant seeds, or you grow. You put a cow out there and she produces a calf, or you got a calf out there growing, pounds of beef. You're multiplying yourself that way. But finding a way to make money while you sleep, and then putting that money somewhere where it will grow by itself and work for you instead of you having to go take care of it all the time.
You were talking about insurance, and I'm sort of like a poster boy case study for insurance on that level, like in terms of providing for families. My father was killed on a plane crash on a business trip, and I was around 6 years old, and of course that came with a settlement. And my mom did a thing that I don't know that a lot of people do, is she just set it aside and didn't touch it. It's one of those things where it's like supposed to be used to raise you, and like we were not well off at all. But she had a thing about it that was for college, and so I ended up going to college for free. And I was a moron in high school. There was no scholarship for me. And so in order to get me an education, that's what did it. And that's how I got to where I am. She made a choice of sacrifice, and it was built off of this tragedy. But insurance is the one thing that paved it. And it was like the 80s when this stuff happened, and it was like nobody was planning that kind of stuff. And I think it was an accident that my dad had life insurance. So it was one of those, like, it worked out. But had that not been the case, oh my gosh, like my life would be a different story. And it's one of those, like, I don't say it very often, but the context is here for this. It's a good planning thing to look at, like for people that in that next step in life. And it's one of those, like, once you hit 30 and 40, that stuff gets pricey. So it's like, when you're young, look at it, get it implemented, and then never worry about it again. And like, you have that thing taken care of. So you also spoke to, looking at educating yourself. Is that what you feel is the most powerful piece? Because I mean, you spoke to education on numerous pieces of this conversation about just, and it's education is sort of a blanket term, but it's finding information on what you want to do.
I'd say education, learn something new every day, is a non-negotiable for me. No matter if we're on vacation, I try to exercise every day, but there's instances where I don't get to the gym or get something done. But every day I'm going to learn something. Most of the time that's through podcasts or audibles. If I go to the gym or if I'm driving, that's what I'm listening to. I'll keep physical books sometimes and read those a little bit at a time in the evenings or something. Watching YouTube videos, but always trying to learn something. Like I said, right now it's a lot of business. It's a lot of sales and marketing is what I listen to. I listen to a lot of Alex Hormozy. I like listening to Bradley, and that's kind of what I base my podcast off of, is telling people stories, and then also trying to provide some opportunity and some education there while they tell their story. But that's huge, education. And like I said, I went to college. I went to Tarleton, but I didn't learn a whole lot. I wasn't wanting to learn. Now I crave it. I'm trying to learn something all the time. And I look at it through that perspective now. Even when we go somewhere in day work or go work cow somewhere, whatever the situation is, just take it as a learning experience. Even if it sucks, even if you don't like the way you're doing it, or you think you could do it better, just you're learning. Like, just take that and say, if I have control, we're not going to do it this way anymore. Or, hey, the way this guy did this was really awesome and it worked really good. or we could improve this a little bit if we tweaked it and did this. It's everything's just learning, and if you go at it with kind of an open mind and just going to learn, no matter the situation, then it's helped me a lot with just being more grateful and having more gratitude, and not being a hothead and being and having a temper and getting down on myself and all that stuff. Just if you go with that open mind, and you know that you're going to learn something. But education is huge. Wherever you get it, I'd try to learn something every day. Um, and you can try to learn something completely different. Like if you're going through, if you want to change industries, start easing off that way, or try to better yourself in whatever you're doing. If you want to ranch, then try to learn as much as you can in that aspect.
Yeah, I like to make the comment that college is not about learning in and of itself. Like you're not gonna come out of college with, a business ready to go in your pocket. The
Mhm.
act of going to college is learning how to learn. And it's
Yeah.
learning that I can find information, or that I can write a research project, and this is how I would do it. It's I think there's that false expectation of like, oh, college doesn't do anything. Like it's learning how, because I I am not a poster child for my undergrad. Grad school, I pulled a 4 point, but like undergrad is almost an embarrassment because I was just. I think that life had to beat me up a little bit before I realized I knew how to learn, and I realized the
Yeah.
value that was there. Like it was one of those things. I wanted, we're running up on time. I want to make sure I give you ample opportunity here. Um, Tell us about what you do and how you help companies, and exactly what Diversified Payments does, and sort of what you're doing on a daily basis to help other people.
Mhm. So diversified payments, we help companies with their payment processing. Basically, we're a full merchant services company. We can help companies get capital in several different ways through cash advances and credit lines and even loans if that's something they need. But our main deal is credit card processing and savings on that area. Uh, our most popular program, I'm sure everybody's seen, is when you go somewhere now, they charge you a fee to use your card. Uh, that's our most popular program. And I saw it before, and it's kind of a shock at first to see that, and like, oh, I wonder why they're doing that. And try to pay cash at those places, and then end up paying by card. Because if you look at it, if you're paying a few percent, it's usually a few cents, a dollar or two, depend as long as it's not a huge amount. If you're going to a restaurant or a feed store or something, you're going to pay a little bit here and there. But if you look at the other side of it, you're paying a few dollars here and there, and the business was having to pay $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month. It really adds up for them. And since COVID and all this stuff, it's hard on small businesses. So we try to really help them out with that. We also do traditional processing. It's called Interchange Plus. If somebody does not want to pass the fee on, we can usually beat their rate that they usually have. Like I said, a lot of these companies, once they get you in, they start raising their rates up and adding some fees here and there and stuff like that, or holding your funds. I mean, there's a lot of shady stuff that goes on in that industry. So we really try to help them save money. Like I said, if they need capital, something like that. And then I've started incorporating through learning about a lot about digital marketing and social media and stuff like that. I've started incorporating some marketing for my customers when they come on. So I try to really uh, help them in two of the three aspects. In my mind, a business, you have your expenses. To make more money, you can lower expenses, which we can help with the credit card processing. And then you can do more marketing to drive more traffic to your business. Uh, and then once that traffic gets there, of course, you got to convert it into sales. So we can cut their fees, save them money on the expenses side. I can do some marketing with them. I do some free marketing for my clients, and then offer discounted rates in the future for different aspects through my channels. And then the sales is up to them. I don't, I can't really help with that in most cases, but I try to help them all around where, you know, I want these. I like going in and visiting with these mom and pop stores and these family owned stores and seeing people my age and young people start these businesses or take over these businesses. I like the interaction. I'm not one to sit on Amazon and order stuff or go to a huge chain store all the time. Sometimes it's you have to, but I like going to these small places, these mom and pop, places as you call them, and they're not going to be around if somebody doesn't help them. So that's what I really try to do is help those kind of places, and I want to keep them in business, and I try to do business with my clients as much as I can, also, and reciprocate it all. But that's what we do, and like I said, it's cutting the expenses and then helping them with marketing. Now that I have a following and have a channel to do that, I've started offering that service, and probably will start doing more of that because I'm trying to grow my channels also. So I'm always educating myself on social media and how to grow and how to reach people and how to be engaging. So I want to pass that knowledge along too.
Yeah, and then what's the geography that you work with Diversified Payments?
Uh, so I live in Central Texas. We can kind of go all over. I just talked to a lady in Arizona. We can do it remotely, but like I said, I like to go in and deal with the people locally. And we travel, I mean, a lot. We're going to rodeos and working and family in the Panhandle and Oklahoma. So we're traveling all over. I try to go, if it's in driving distance, I try to go drive to that business and meet everybody in person and set them up if that's possible.
Awesome. So listeners out there, check out Diversified Payments and get a hold of Crockett here if you have a business and are curious about how to save money. And for all you other listeners out there, be sure to check out the Wealthy Cowboy Show. It's all over YouTube. It's all over social media. And then you run off of the real Crockett Carruthers, I think it is, on Instagram and stuff. I'm not sure that you run business through there. I'm just throwing that out there. But definitely
Yeah.
check out the Wealthy Cowboy. Um, Terrific shows. You put on a great production and you provide a lot of education for people that I'm sure identify with what your journey has been and just the success that you've had and that you inspire. It's terrific information out there. So be sure to check this out.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, hey, Crockett, I can't thank you enough for your time. It was very cool. Enjoyed the conversation. As different topics come back up, we'll get you back on here. And Matthew Balderrama, thank you for going up and talking to people. I appreciate your efforts there.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, and thanks, Matt, for coming and asking me.
Likewise. This concludes episode number 101 for the National Land Realty Podcast, talking with Crockett Carruthers of the Wealthy Cowboy Podcast. Now remember, you can learn more about land ownership and the buying and selling of land at nationalland.com.